Ambassador HFY clicked his 6 legs nervously as he stared at his communication console. The blue light that usually blinked constantly was dark. He tapped the screen with one of his thin fingers, hoping it was just a small problem with his equipment. Nothing happened. The screen stayed black. "This cannot be right," he whispered to himself. His voice came out as a series of clicks and whistles that the universal translator changed into words. HFY was the official representative of the Veltar people at the Galactic Council. His job was to watch all the messages that came from different worlds across the galaxy. For the past 20 years, he had done this same work every day. He knew every signal pattern, every communication style, and every species that sent messages through space. But today was different. Today, one very important signal was missing. Earth had gone quiet. The small blue planet in the Sol system had always been the loudest world in the galaxy. Humans never stopped talking. They sent music, movies, news, scientific papers, and even pictures of their food to anyone who would listen. Other species often complained that humans talked too much. The melodic Threx had to create special filters just to block out human music, because there was so much of it. HFY remembered when he first started this job. His supervisor had warned him about the humans. "They never stop sending messages," the old ambassador had said. "They will fill up your communication systems if you are not careful." That was true. Humans sent thousands of messages every day. They shared everything with the galaxy. When they discovered a new planet, they told everyone. When they made a new type of food, they sent recipes. When their children were born, they sent pictures. Even when they argued with each other, they broadcast it for the whole galaxy to hear. Most species in the galaxy thought humans were strange because of this. The proud Zephyrians only spoke when they had something important to say. The wise Nexari shared knowledge only with those who proved they were ready to learn. The mysterious Voidwalkers barely communicated at all. But humans? They shared everything. Until today. HFY checked his equipment 3 more times. He ran diagnostic tests on every system. He even called the technical support team to make sure his communication array was working properly. Everything was fine on his end. The problem was not with his equipment. The problem was that Earth was not sending any signals at all. He opened his emergency communication channel and sent a message to his supervisor. "Ambassador Korthtel, we have a situation. Earth has stopped all communications." The reply came back quickly. "Define stopped, Ambassador HFY. Complete silence. No radio waves, no quantum messages, no hyperspace signals. Nothing has come from Earth for the past 6 hours. That is impossible. Humans do not stop talking. Check your equipment again." HFY felt frustrated. "I have checked everything 5 times. The problem is not on our end. Earth is silent." Within an hour, every communication station in the galaxy was trying to contact Earth. The results were always the same. Nothing. No response to any message sent toward the small blue world. The news spread quickly through the Galactic Council building. Species that had never cared about human chatter before suddenly became very interested. The ferromechanoids, who usually only talked about metal and machines, asked if Earth's computers had broken down. The crystalline hive, who shared thoughts without speaking, wondered if humans had learned to communicate without technology. By the end of the day, representatives from 50 different species had gathered in the main council chamber. The room was full of worried voices, strange smells, and the nervous energy that came when something unexpected happened. Council leader Yorthun called for order. Her voice was deep and calm, the way it always was during emergencies. "Fellow council members," she began, "we are here to discuss the situation with Earth. As you all know by now, the human homeworld has not sent any communications for 12 hours. A representative from the aquatic depths raised one of his tentacles. Perhaps their star is having problems? Solar flares could damage their communication systems." "We checked that," said the Zephyrian delegate. "Sol is stable. There are no solar storms or unusual activities." Another voice spoke up from the back of the room. "Maybe they finally got tired of talking to us. Maybe they decided we are not worth their time." This comment caused nervous laughter from some species, but HFY did not think it was funny. He had studied humans for many years. They did not get tired of talking. Ever. Even when other species ignored them or told them to be quiet, humans kept sending messages. They seemed to need communication the way other species needed food or water. The meeting went on for hours. Everyone had a different idea about what might have happened to Earth. Some thought it was a technical problem. Others believed humans were playing some kind of trick. A few suggested that maybe humans had evolved beyond the need to talk to other species, but no one could explain why Earth was completely silent. As the council meeting ended, Zexhai returned to his communication station. He spent the rest of the night trying different methods to contact Earth. He sent messages on every frequency humans had ever used. He tried old radio waves, new quantum channels, and even primitive light signals. Nothing worked. When morning came, other species started to notice problems. The melodic Threks, who had built their entire music industry around remixing human songs, had nothing new to work with. The Traders Union discovered that several important shipping routes went through human space, and they could not get permission to use them without talking to Earth. Most troubling of all, the Galactic Library realized that humans provided 40% of all new information that was added each day. Scientific discoveries, cultural updates, historical records, technical manuals. Humans shared more knowledge with the galaxy than any other species. Without their constant flow of information, the library's growth had slowed to almost nothing. The economic impact was also becoming clear. Human worlds were major trading partners with hundreds of other planets. Their markets were closed, their shipping was stopped, and their diplomatic channels were dark. The galaxy's economy was starting to feel the effects of losing one of its most active participants. By the second day, panic was beginning to spread. Not because anyone was particularly worried about humans, most species still thought of them as harmless chatterboxes. But because the silence was so complete and so strange that it scared everyone. The Zephyrians, who had the best long-range sensors in the galaxy, sent a deep space probe toward Earth. The probe's mission was simple: find out if the planet was still there, and if the humans were still alive. The probe would take 3 days to reach Earth's solar system. Until then, the galaxy could only wait and wonder what had happened to the species that never stopped talking. Zexhai sat at his communication station, watching the empty channels that should have been full of human messages. For the first time in his career, the galaxy was truly quiet. And somehow that silence was the most frightening sound he had ever heard. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 300-year history. Representatives from nearly every known species had traveled to Nexus Prime, the Council's home station. The massive meeting hall was packed with beings of all shapes and sizes, all united by the same strange fear. Earth was still silent. 3 days had passed since the humans stopped talking, and the galaxy was starting to panic. What had begun as curiosity was now becoming genuine terror, not because anyone particularly cared about humans, but because the silence itself was impossible to understand. Council leader Yorthan stood at the center of the Great Hall. Her tall, gray form commanded respect from every species present. "Fellow beings," she began, "we are gathered here to discuss what many are calling the most disturbing event in galactic history, the complete silence of Earth." Dr. Vexatai from the crystalline hive was the first to speak. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors as he talked. "Our collective consciousness has considered many possibilities. Perhaps the humans have achieved what we accomplished millennia ago. Perhaps they have joined together as one mind and no longer need to speak to outsiders." The idea made sense to some species, but others disagreed quickly. "Impossible," said Captain Zlorth of the Ferromechanoids. His mechanical voice was loud and harsh. "Humans are too individual. They argue with each other more than they talk to us. They cannot agree on simple things like what food to eat. How could they become a single mind?" Ambassador Thrill from the aquatic depths made a gurgling sound that the translators changed into words. "Maybe they found something in their oceans, something that changed them. We know humans spend most of their time on land, but their world is mostly water. Perhaps they discovered something deep under their seas. Or maybe they just broke their communication systems," suggested Engineer Corks from the Traders Union. "Humans use very simple technology compared to most of us. Maybe all their equipment stopped working at the same time." This idea got support from several technical species, but it also created new questions. How could an entire planet's communication network fail completely? And why hadn't they fixed it yet? Humans were known for being good at fixing things quickly. The debate continued for hours. Every species had theories, but none of them could explain the complete silence. The Voidwalkers thought humans had discovered how to travel to other dimensions. The Solar Priest believed humans had been chosen by cosmic forces for a special purpose. The Insect Collective suggested that humans had been taken over by a parasitic species. Then Elder Corthan spoke. The ancient Nexari was over 800 years old. His species had been exploring space longer than most others had known that space existed. When he spoke, every other being in the hall became quiet. "There is another possibility," he said in his slow, careful voice. "What if something has silenced them?" The hall became completely quiet. No one moved. No one made any sound. "What do you mean?" asked Council Leader Yorthan. Elder Corthan's old eyes looked around the room. "In our long history, we have kept records of every species we have met. We have also kept records of species that have disappeared. There are 43 intelligent species that we know existed but can no longer contact. All of them simply went silent one day, just like Earth." "But those were different situations," protested Ambassador Zexai. "Some of those species destroyed themselves in wars. Others were killed by natural disasters or disease." "Yes," agreed Elder Corthun. "But 7 of them went silent exactly like this. Complete communication blackout. No explanation. No warning signs. They just stopped talking, and we never heard from them again." Dr. Vexitai's crystals turned a dark red color, which meant he was afraid. "Are you suggesting that something is targeting species that communicate frequently?" "I am suggesting that we do not know what happened to Earth," Elder Corthan replied. "But we should be very careful about our assumptions." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from the Zephyrian Deep Space Command. Their probe had finally reached Earth's solar system, and the initial reports were confusing. Captain Velnara's voice came through the communication system clearly. "Council members, this is Scout Ship Whisper reporting from the edge of Earth's solar system. We have some very strange information to share." "Proceed, Captain," said Council Leader Yorthan. "Earth is still there. The planet looks normal from a distance. We can see city lights on the dark side of the world. We can detect normal weather patterns. Air traffic appears to be moving normally around their major population centers." "Then why are they not communicating?" asked several voices at once. "That is the strange part," Captain Velnara continued. "Our sensors show that Earth's communication equipment is still working. Their satellites are active. Their radio towers are broadcasting. Their quantum communication arrays are operational, but they are not sending any messages outside their solar system." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Vextai. "It appears that humans are still communicating with each other. We can detect signals moving between Earth and their moon colonies, between Earth and their space stations, and between their different cities. But none of these communications are being sent beyond their own solar system." This information made everyone even more confused. If humans were still talking to each other, why weren't they talking to the galaxy? If their equipment was working, why the complete silence? Ambassador Thrill raised one of his tentacles. "Maybe they are hiding from something. Maybe they know about a danger that we do not know about." "What could frighten humans enough to make them stop talking to us?" asked Captain Zlorth. "They have never been afraid of anything before. They explore dangerous worlds. They study deadly creatures. They even send messages to unknown species without worrying about the consequences." Elder Corthan made a sound that might have been a sigh. "There is something else the Council should know about humans. Something that most species prefer not to discuss." The hall became quiet again. In the past 3 centuries, 17 different species have attempted to invade or conquer Earth. Military expeditions, exploration fleets, colonization attempts, even single spy missions. All 17 attempts have failed. "Failed how?" asked Council Leader Yorthan, though her voice suggested she already knew the answer would be disturbing. "The fleets and expeditions simply disappeared. No survivors, no wreckage, no communication from any of the invasion forces after they entered Earth's solar system. It is as if they never existed." Many representatives started talking at once, but Elder Corthan raised his hand for silence. "Most species explain these disappearances as accidents or natural disasters. Space is dangerous after all. Ships are lost all the time, but 17 different expeditions from 17 different species, all lost in the same solar system? That is not a coincidence." "What are you saying?" asked Dr. Vextai. "I am saying that humans may not be as harmless as they appear. I am saying that maybe they stopped talking to us for a reason. And I am saying that maybe we should be very, very careful about why they chose now to go silent." The emergency session ended with more questions than answers. Earth was still silent, and now the galaxy knew that the quiet little world had a much darker history than anyone had realized. As representatives returned to their home worlds, one thought followed them. All? If something had finally silenced the humans, what chance did the rest of the galaxy have against whatever it was? Captain Velnara had been in space for most of her adult life, but she had never felt as nervous as she did now. Her ship, the Whisper, floated at the edge of Earth's solar system, along with 23 other vessels from different species. All of them were watching the small blue planet that refused to talk. 2 weeks had passed since Earth went silent. The observation fleet had grown larger each day as more species sent ships to monitor the situation. Everyone wanted to know what was happening, but no one was brave enough to get too close to the human homeworld. "Captain," said her sensor officer, a young Zephyrian named Kixtal, "I am detecting some unusual activity." "What kind of activity?" Velnara asked. She moved to the sensor station and looked at the displays. "Earth's defensive satellites have been moving. Look at these patterns from the past week." The screen showed Earth surrounded by thousands of small dots representing satellites, space stations, and defensive platforms. Velnara had been watching these same dots for days, and she thought she knew where they were supposed to be. But now she could see that many of them had changed positions. "Show me a comparison with their positions from last week," she ordered. Kixtal brought up 2 images side by side. The difference was clear. Earth's satellites had moved from their normal, defensive positions into a completely different pattern. Instead of facing outward to protect against invasions from space, they were now arranged in a way that looked like they were designed to keep something in, rather than keep something out. "This makes no sense," Velnara said. "Why would they arrange their defenses like this?" "Maybe they are not trying to defend against us," suggested Kixtal. "Maybe they are trying to contain something on their planet." Before Velnara could respond, her communication officer interrupted them. "Captain, we are receiving a message from the Gectheran scout ship Silent Seeker. They are requesting permission to send a probe closer to Earth." Velnara considered this request carefully. The Gectherans were known for building very small, very quiet probes that were almost impossible to detect. If any species could get close to Earth without being noticed, it would be them. "Tell Captain Hisek that he has permission from the observation fleet," she said. "But remind him that if something happens to his probe, we may not be able to help him." 3 hours later, a probe the size of a small bird left the Gectheran ship and began its journey toward Earth. The tiny device was equipped with the most advanced sensors that Gectheran technology could provide, but it carried no weapons and no communication equipment that could be traced back to the observation fleet. The probe took 2 days to reach Earth's orbital space. During that time, every ship in the observation fleet watched their sensors carefully. The probe was so small and so quiet that even their advanced equipment could barely track it. When the probe finally slipped past Earth's outer defenses, everyone held their breath. For the first time in 2 weeks, they might finally learn what was happening on the human homeworld. The probe transmitted data for exactly 4.7 seconds. Then its signal disappeared completely. But those 4 seconds of information changed everything. Captain Velnara stared at the thermal images on her screen. "This cannot be correct," she whispered. The probe had used heat sensors to look at Earth's surface. What it found was disturbing. While the surface of the planet looked normal, the images showed massive heat sources deep underground. Huge areas under every continent were generating enormous amounts of energy. "Captain," said Kixtal, "these heat signatures are not natural. Someone is running major industrial operations beneath Earth's surface." "How major?" Velnara asked. "The power output from these underground facilities is larger than anything we have ever seen. Each continent shows energy generation equivalent to what our entire civilization uses in a year." The probe had also detected something else. Earth's magnetic field, which normally protected the planet from space radiation, had been artificially strengthened. The field was now so powerful that it would be almost impossible for any ship to land on the planet without being detected and probably destroyed. "They have turned their entire world into a fortress," Velnara said quietly. The probe's final piece of information was the most disturbing of all. Just before its signal was cut off, the probe had detected movement on Earth's moon. Luna, which should have been a cold, dead rock with a few small human colonies, was showing signs of massive construction activity. Within hours, the probe's information had been shared with every ship in the observation fleet. The captains held an emergency meeting using quantum communication channels. Captain Hisek of the Gectherans spoke first. His voice was a series of hisses that the translators made into words. "The probe's data suggests that humans have been building something for a very long time. These underground facilities did not appear overnight." "How long do you think they have been working on this?" asked Captain Mordith from the Voidwalker ship. Based on the size and scale of the construction, probably decades, maybe even centuries, Hisek replied. Commander Zeal from the ferromechanoid vessel made a mechanical clicking sound that indicated surprise. Centuries? But humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. When did they have time to build all of this? Maybe they started building it as soon as they learned that other species existed, suggested Captain Velnara. Maybe they have been preparing for something all along. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from the Deep Space Monitoring Station at Keltar Outpost. The voice of Station Commander Yilax came through clearly, but he sounded frightened. This is Keltar Outpost to all vessels in the Sol Observation Fleet. We have detected massive movement in Sector 7. Unknown vessels approaching from the outer rim. Size and number impossible to determine. All ships are advised to maintain current positions and prepare for possible hostile contact. Sector 7 was at the edge of known galactic space. Nothing important was supposed to be out there except for a few mining colonies and research stations. Commander Yilax, said Captain Velnara. Can you provide more details about these unknown vessels? Negative, Captain. Our long-range sensors are being jammed by some kind of interference. But based on the gravitational disturbances we are detecting, there are a lot of them. And they are moving very fast. Captain Hisek's voice came through the communication channel. Commander, are these vessels from any known species? Unknown. The energy signatures do not match any species in our database. But Captain, there is something else you need to know. What is it? The devourer swarms that have been attacking colonies in the outer rim? They have stopped their advance. Our monitoring stations report that all devourer activity ceased 6 hours ago. This news sent a wave of fear through the observation fleet. The devourers were machine intelligences that consumed entire worlds. They had been slowly working their way through the galaxy's outer territories for the past 50 years, destroying everything in their path. Nothing had ever been able to stop them or even slow them down. If the devourers had stopped advancing, it could only mean one thing. They had encountered something that scared them more than they scared everyone else. Captain Velnara looked at the image of Earth on her main screen. The small blue world looked so peaceful and quiet. But now she was beginning to understand that the silence was not a sign of weakness or defeat. The silence was preparation. All ships, she announced to the observation fleet, maintain current positions but be ready to retreat on short notice. I have a feeling that Earth's silence is about to end, and when it does, we are going to learn some very disturbing things about our human neighbors. As if responding to her words, Earth's moon suddenly lit up with energy signatures that were visible even from the edge of the solar system. Whatever the humans had built on Luna was now active. The galaxy's most talkative species had been quiet for 2 weeks. But Captain Velnara was beginning to suspect that when the humans finally spoke again, the galaxy would wish it had never heard what they had to say. The emergency broadcast reached every inhabited world in the galaxy at the same time. The message was simple, but it filled every intelligent being with terror. The outer rim colonies are gone, all of them. Council leader Yorthan stood in the center of the Galactic Council's crisis command room, surrounded by screens showing data from across the galaxy. Each screen told the same impossible story. Entire star systems had simply vanished. How many worlds? She asked the Zephyrian sensor technician. 47 colonies, 17 mining stations, and 6 research outposts, came the reply. All gone within the past 12 hours. No distress signals, no communication, nothing. They just stopped existing. Dr. Vexitai's crystalline body had turned a deep black color, which meant he was experiencing fear beyond anything his species normally felt. This is not possible. Things do not just disappear from space. The monitoring stations are reporting the same thing from multiple sectors, said Commander Zlorth of the ferromechanoids. Whatever destroyed those colonies is moving toward the galactic core. Fast. But the most disturbing news came from the Deep Space Survey Corps. Captain Mordeth of the Voidwalkers had been monitoring the devourer swarms for years. His report made everyone in the command room feel sick. The devourers are running, he announced. For 50 years they have been slowly consuming worlds in the outer rim. They have never retreated from anything. But now they are fleeing toward the galactic center as fast as their ships can move. What could make the devourers retreat? Asked Yorthun. Something that scares them more than they scare us, Mordeth replied. The answer came from the Nexari archives. Elder Korthan had spent 3 days searching through records that were millions of years old. What he found in the ancient databases filled him with horror. I have found references to this before, he announced to the council. In the oldest records left by the precursor civilizations, there are warnings about something they called the Silence Makers. He brought up holographic images of ancient stone tablets and crystal memory banks. The writing was in languages so old that even the Nexari translation computers had trouble reading them. According to these records, the Silence Makers come from the void between galaxies. They appear every few million years to cleanse entire galactic regions of life, not to conquer or harvest, but to completely erase all traces of intelligence and civilization. Cleanse? Asked Dr. Vextai. They do not want territory or resources. They simply want to remove all thinking beings from existence. The records describe them as ancient beyond measure, with technology that can destroy stars and erase entire species from reality itself. Yorthan felt cold despite the warm temperature in the command room. How do they do this? The records are not clear about their methods, but the results are always the same. Civilizations simply cease to exist. No survivors, no ruins, no trace that they ever lived. It is as if they never existed at all. But the records exist, pointed out Commander Zlorth. Someone must have survived to write them. Yes, agreed Elder Corthan, but only because they hid. The precursors who wrote these warnings spent centuries building hidden archives and secret bases in empty regions of space. They knew the Silence Makers would return someday, and they wanted to leave warnings for whoever came after. The command room became quiet as everyone tried to understand what this meant. If beings that could destroy the Devourer swarms were coming, then the entire galaxy was in danger. But Elder Corthan was not finished. He had found something even more disturbing in the human archives. There is something else, he said carefully. I accessed the human archaeological databases to see if they had any similar records. And? Asked Yorthan. 65 million years ago, Earth experienced what humans called the Great Extinction. Most life on their world was destroyed in a single catastrophic event. Humans have always believed it was caused by a large asteroid hitting their planet. But? Prompted Dr. Vextai. But the evidence does not support an asteroid impact. The geological records show energy signatures that are consistent with advanced weapons technology. The same energy signatures mentioned in the precursor warnings about the Silence Makers. The implication was clear and terrifying. The Silence Makers had been to Earth before. They had tried to cleanse it of life, but somehow they had failed. Most of Earth's life had died, but the planet itself had survived. Why did Earth survive when other worlds did not? Asked Commander Zlorth. I do not know, Elder Corthan replied. But the records suggest that something about Earth made it resistant to their cleansing process, something that allowed life to eventually recover and develop again. Yorthan looked around the command room at the faces of representatives from dozens of species. All of them showed the same expression of fear and helplessness. How long do we have? She asked. Based on the rate at which colonies are disappearing, the Silence Makers will reach the main galactic civilizations within 2 standard months, Elder Corthan said quietly. Can we fight them? The precursor records suggest that direct military resistance is useless. The Silence Makers do not fight wars in any way that we would understand. They simply erase their targets from existence. Then what do we do? Asked Dr. Vextai. Before anyone could answer, Captain Velnara's voice came through the emergency communication channel from the Sol observation fleet. Galactic Council. This is Captain Velnara reporting from Earth's solar system. We have urgent, new information. Proceed, Captain, said Yorthan. We have been monitoring human communication intercepts for the past week. Most of their internal communications are encrypted, but we have been able to decode some of their scientific and military transmissions. What have you learned? They know. The humans know about the Silence Makers. They have known for a long time. The command room became completely silent. How long? Asked Elder Corthan. Based on the communications we have decoded, humans have been preparing for this specific threat for at least 300 years. Maybe longer. Preparing how? Asked Commander Zlorth. We do not know the details, but their military communications mention something called Project Deep Shield. They also reference weapon systems that we have never seen before, and defensive technologies that should not be possible with their level of advancement. Yorthan felt something that might have been hope. Are you saying the humans might be able to fight the Silence Makers? I am saying that Earth's silence makes much more sense now, Captain Velnara replied. They did not go quiet because they were in danger. They went quiet because they are preparing for war. But why did they not warn us? Why did they not ask for help? Captain Velnara's voice was quiet when she answered. Captain, based on what we have observed over the past 3 weeks, I do not think the humans believe that anyone else in the galaxy can help them. I think they believe they are the only species capable of fighting this threat. That is impossible, protested Dr. Vextai. Humans are technologically inferior to most galactic civilizations. How could they fight something that can destroy star systems? Maybe they are not as inferior as we thought, said Elder Corthan. Maybe we never understood what humans really are. As if summoned by his words, long-range sensors detected new movement in the Sol system. Earth's moon was generating power signatures that were off the scale of anything they had ever measured. The energy output from Luna alone was greater than what most civilizations use to power entire planets. Council members, said Captain Velnara, I think Earth is about to break its silence, and when it does, we are going to learn the truth about why 17 invasion fleets disappeared in their solar system. What truth? Asked Yorthun. That humanity never needed our protection, Velnara replied. We needed theirs. The first sign that the Silence Makers had reached the inner galaxy was the disappearance of the Kethmar system. One moment, long-range sensors showed 3 inhabited worlds orbiting a yellow star. The next moment, there was nothing. Not empty space, not debris, not even the star itself. Just void, as if that entire region of space had been carefully cut out of reality. Captain Velnara watched her instruments in horror as system after system vanished from the galactic maps. The Silence Makers were not conquering or destroying. In any conventional sense, they were simply erasing things from existence. How many systems have we lost? She asked her communications officer. 143 in the past day, came the reply. The rate is increasing. The observation fleet at the edge of Earth's solar system had grown to over 300 ships from every major species. They had come to watch the humans, but now they were watching the end of their galaxy. Captain, said Sensor Officer Kixtal, I am detecting massive energy signatures from multiple sources in this system. Velnara looked at her screens and saw something that should have been impossible. Earth's moon was glowing with so much energy that it was visible to the naked eye. The planet itself was showing power readings that exceeded anything in their databases. But it was not just Earth and Luna. Every space station, every satellite, every human construct in the system was suddenly active and generating enormous amounts of power. What are they doing? Whispered Kixtal. The answer came from Earth itself. For the first time in 4 weeks, a transmission emerged from the human homeworld. It was broadcast on every frequency, in every language, using communication methods that some species did not even know existed. Galactic Council, this is Terra Command. We have the situation handled. All species are advised to maintain minimum safe distance from Sol system and avoid interference with human operations. Earth out. The message was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its confidence. Terra Command? Said Captain Velnara. I have never heard of any human organization called Terra Command. Her question was answered by what happened next. The surface of Earth's moon began to change. What had looked like normal lunar terrain was revealed to be camouflage covering massive structures. As the disguise fell away, Luna was transformed into something that looked like a weapon the size of a small moon. Because that was exactly what it was. From Earth's surface, enormous structures began to rise. Not built recently, but constructed, over centuries and hidden beneath the planet's crust. The humans had not just prepared for this day. They had built their entire world into a fortress designed specifically to fight cosmic-level threats. But the most shocking revelation came when Captain Velnara's sensors detected familiar energy signatures around Earth's orbital defenses. Captain, said Kixtal in a voice full of disbelief, those are not all human ships protecting Earth. What do you mean? I am reading energy signatures from Veltar assault cruisers, Gektharan stealth fighters, Zephyrian battle platforms, and at least 12 other species warships. But they are all integrated into Earth's defensive grid. The horrible truth became clear. Every invasion fleet that had disappeared in Earth's solar system over the past 3 centuries had not been destroyed. They had been captured, studied, reverse-engineered, and incorporated into humanity's defenses. Earth was not protected by human technology alone. It was protected by the combined military power of every species that had ever tried to conquer it. They kept every ship, Velnara whispered. Every weapon, every piece of technology, every tactical advantage. They have been building a defense force using the best that every species could offer. The observation fleet watched in stunned silence as Earth's true defensive capability revealed itself. The planet was surrounded by thousands of ships and weapons platforms representing hundreds of different technologies, all working together under human command. Then, the Silence Makers arrived at the edge of the solar system. Captain Velnara's sensors detected them before her eyes did. The energy readings were beyond anything she had ever seen. Massive structures emerged from hyperspace, each one the size of a small planet. They moved with purpose and terrible intent toward the inner system. "How many?" asked Kickstall. "I count at least 50 major vessels. Each one is larger than our biggest space stations." The Silence Makers did not communicate. They did not issue demands or warnings. They simply began their approach toward Earth with the same methodical pace they had used to erase entire civilizations. But this time, they encountered resistance. Earth's defensive grid activated with devastating effect. Weapons that combined human ingenuity with alien technology opened fire on the Silence Makers. Energy beams that used Zephyrian focusing crystals powered by human fusion cores. Kinetic projectiles that combined ferromechanoid engineering with human targeting systems. Quantum disruptors that merged Nixari science with human tactical doctrine. For the first time in millions of years, the Silence Makers were being hurt. The ancient entities responded by intensifying their attack. They used weapons that could collapse space-time itself, trying to erase Earth from reality the way they had erased so many other worlds. But Earth was ready for this too. The planet's artificially enhanced magnetic field interacted with massive generators hidden beneath every continent. Instead of being erased from existence, Earth became more real, more solid, more permanent than the space around it. The humans had found a way to anchor their world to reality itself. The battle lasted for 6 hours. The observation fleet watched, as humanity fought beings that had destroyed galactic civilizations with the same casual effort that most species use to swat insects. And humanity was winning. One by one, the Silence Makers' massive vessels were disabled or destroyed. Their reality-erasing weapons were countered by human defenses that had been designed specifically for this threat. Their ancient technology, unchanged for millions of years, was outmatched by human adaptability and innovation. When the last of the Silence Makers was finally defeated, the human transmission resumed. "Galactic Council, this is Terra Command. Hostile entities have been neutralized. Normal galactic communications may resume. We apologize for any inconvenience caused by our operational security measures." Captain Velnara stared at her communication panel. "Operational security measures," she repeated. "They call saving the galaxy operational security measures." Over the next few days, as human communication networks came back online, the true scope of humanity's deception became clear. The species that had seemed so harmless, so chatty, so eager to share everything with the galaxy, had been planning for this moment for centuries. They had analyzed every species' technology, studied every possible threat, and prepared for every contingency. Their constant communication had not been friendliness. It had been intelligence gathering on a scale that no one had imagined. The humans had known that the Silence Makers would return someday. They had known that when they did, the galaxy's other civilizations would not be able to fight them, so they had quietly appointed themselves as the galaxy's protectors, building defenses that could handle cosmic-level threats, while maintaining the illusion that they were just another harmless species. When Elder Corthan finally spoke to Terra Command directly, his first question was why humans had never told anyone the truth. The answer was simple. Because you would have panicked, interfered, or tried to help. We needed you to continue developing your civilizations normally while we prepared for the real threat. A galaxy full of scared, militarized societies would have been much harder to protect. But why protect us at all? Asked Dr. Vextai. Because that is what civilized beings do, replied the human representative. You protect those who cannot protect themselves. The galaxy's most talkative species had been silent for 4 weeks, but when they spoke again, it was to announce that the most dangerous threat in galactic history had been eliminated. Earth's silence had not been a cry for help. It had been the sound of the galaxy's guardians going to work. And now that the work was done, the humans went back to doing what they did best, talking to anyone who would listen, sharing their discoveries, and making sure that everyone knew that the galaxy was safe again. But from that day forward, when humans spoke, the galaxy listened with a new understanding of who they really were.